Hello and welcome to the video on how to use the newer version of ACMESharp, version 8.1.0 or 0.8.1.0 with Windows Server to issue LetsEncrypt certificates. So if you've used my previous version of this video with the older ACMESharp, you will want to delete the following directory, which is C, or your system drive, Windows, then syswow64, and then Windows PowerShell version 1, and then modules. If there are any ACMESharp files in there, you want to delete those, or at least move them out of that folder somewhere else, and also the system32 directory. So C Windows system32, Windows PowerShell v1, and then modules, and then any ACMESharp directories again, move those out of there as well. So let's close that and download ACMESharp. So I want to go to ACMESharp releases. Oh, I was on that page anyway. In the previous video I downloaded the ACMESharp Posh or PowerShell zip, but that zip in the newer version doesn't contain the IIS add-ins. So the trick here is you download the ACMESharp Posh All package. And then rename it to zip. Go to the source folder, and then this file we want to put into C drive, Windows, System32, Windows PowerShell, v1, modules, and click and drag that into that folder. Whoops, that's a gotcha to watch out for. So if I now go into here, right click on any of these files, they are blocked. So you need to unblock each file, which takes a long time and was tedious in my last video. So the author of ACMESharp has shown me a shortcut. So before you extract from the zip file, right click on it, go to properties, click on unblock, and now pardon me, go to the source folder and then extract that into the PowerShell modules directory. And now if we look at any of these files, they don't need unblocking. So thank you very much, author of ACMESharp. That will save me a lot of time. I can't believe that I didn't know that before. So we can now close the ACMESharp folders and the downloads folder and scroll up, click on wiki on the ACMESharp GitHub page, and then quick start. So let's just basically follow the instructions. Oh, before we do that as well, make sure that you are running PowerShell version 4. You can tell by typing in PowerShell get-host or get-host, and it says, in my instance, version 4. However, when I set up this virtual machine to test with, Server 2008 R2 only came with version 2 installed by default. So you need to just Google for PowerShell 4 space Server 2008 R2 and basically follow the Microsoft instructions. I believe all I did was download the .NET Framework 5.4.1 and also the RM or Remote Management Framework 4, and I believe that's all I did. Possibly had to reboot, and then when you go into PowerShell, type in get-host version 4. So let's go back to the PowerShell instructions. So the previous version vaults are not compatible with the new version of PowerShell, so we're going to have to basically start everything again. You can't bring across anything. Well, you might be able to, but I wouldn't recommend it. So start a new first off, import the modules. Also, I'm going to import the ACMESharp -IIS module as well, so that we can interface with IIS. And then we're going to initialize the vault, which stores all of your certificate information and registrations. So before I do that, the folder it now uses, and previously with the older version it would use whichever directory you were currently in at the time. So if you were in System32 and you typed initialize vault, you'd end up with your vault in there. Now it uses the program data folder. So if I now initialize the vault, there we go, it's created the ACMESharp folder in program data. We need to create a registration and agree to the terms and conditions again. So obviously use your own email address there, because otherwise I'll get your expiration notices and everything else that they send. So fill in your email address and accept the terms of use. Now we need to tell ACMESharp the website name that we would like the certificate for. So in my case, I'm going to create it for www.candycards.co.uk. Obviously you would use your own name there, so www.mybusiness.com or server. Or exchange.myschool.org or whatever. And then where you've got alias, this is basically the name that you want to reference to it in the vault or when you run further commands. So I prefer, rather than just calling it my website or something particularly weird, and especially if you've got multiple websites or certificates you want to request, I suggest using www. and then the name of your site, so candycards.co.uk _identifier, because pardon me, we are creating an identifier, so the alias is going to be the identifier for that website. And that has created the identifier. We now need to prove to LetsEncrypt that we have access to this website and we are allowed to have a certificate issued for it. So I'm going to copy their command for IIS. So this DNS1 is the identifier, so www.candycards.co.uk _identifier, if I can type correctly, hopefully. We want to do an HTTP challenge, so we want them to check over HTTP. I want to use IIS, and because I've only got one website, it's the default website in my IIS setup. If you had multiple websites and multiple names on your server, you would put in whatever you had called your IIS instance. And what you'll find that will have done under your document root is it will have created a well.known folder with a unique challenge or unique file in it. Again, the older version you had to manually edit the web.config because there was a bug in that. That's no longer the case. You can just carry on with the commands. So I can skip all that. Submit the challenge. So we've created the challenge, we now need to submit it to LetsEncrypt. So submit -acme challenge. This is the identifier again, www.candycards.co.uk _identifier -challenge type HTTP-01. And at the moment it's pending, and it's interesting, we'll see what happens. So we now need to check back with LetsEncrypt and see whether they validated it. So update ACMEIdentifier, and then the identifier name, so candycards.co.uk _identifier hyphen challenge type. It was an HTTP 01 challenge. So that says pending, and what I've found is that that doesn't actually seem to change until I issue the next command, which is the update ACMEIdentifier, but without the challenge type on the end, and then suddenly it seems to change to valid. Or yeah, there we go. So that status is valid. We're now able to issue certificates for that, or at least LetsEncrypt know that we have access to that server and we're allowed to have a certificate. So let's move on. But the instructions here would lead you to believe that you'd have to keep running this update with the challenge on the end until it says valid, but as I say, I've found that I can run that as much as I want. It doesn't seem to change to valid until I run this command, which is essentially the same as that but without the challenge type on the end, and then it seems to update it. Excuse me while I just take a drink. Pardon me. So we now want to retrieve the certificate. So new Acme certificate, then the identifier again. This is why I like using a fairly obvious name. So it's for candycards.co.uk _identifier, and then generate to generate the certificate. Alias, which is again a similar name to the identifier, but this is a certificate name. So I'm going to use the same convention. So www.candycards.co.uk _certifier certificate, because we're generating a certificate, and I want the certificate's alias to be the host name _certificate. And then submit Acme certificate, and now the alias that I've just created, so I'm going to copy and paste it because I'm lazy. And that's gone off to LetsEncrypt to ask for a certificate. Until this issuer serial number is filled in, they haven't issued you a certificate. So we want to go down here and run the update command and see whether they've issued it yet. Update Acme certificate, and then the certificate name or the alias of the certificate. So that's one thing as well to watch out for. If you're scripting this, you may want to tell your script to wait 15, 20, 30 seconds. I'm not sure how long it takes. I don't know whether they ever manually held any certificates before issuing them, but until you've got that issuer serial number, it's not a good idea to progress further in the installation, which we'll get to in a moment. So now these instructions are to do with extracting the certificate and using it. There is, because we imported the IIS commands earlier, a much easier option to install your certificate into IIS, which is just install -Acme certificate to IIS -certificate, and then this is the alias or the name of the certificate which we'd requested earlier. So I'm going to copy and paste that, and then I'm going to put in replace, because I found that if you don't put the replace there, if you've already got an expired certificate or some other thing set up there, it will complain at you and say that there's already a certificate and it won't override it. But in my case, I know that I don't have one, or I don't care about the certificates there that is there, so I'm going to do the replace. And this error is fairly obvious. It can't run the IIS web administration script because it's disabled. If you get this error message, you can fix it by going set-execution policy and then enter, and the execution policy should be remote signed, and I believe that's fairly safe because even the instructions on connecting to Office 365 on PowerShell tell you to do exactly the same thing. So if we now retry the install certificate command, and that has now installed the certificate into IIS. So if I try visiting candycards.co.uk with HTTPS, it's installed the certificate by LetsEncrypt, issued today and valid for, I believe, 90 days. And there we go, you've just installed a free certificate using the newer version of ACMESharp. If you're using Server 2012, I have had an error which reads exception calling invoke with 1 argument, and then the reason it gives is a specified logon session does not exist. It may already have been terminated. The way I've got around that, or the way that some people say they've got around it, is they've just gone into the IIS control panel, to the website, to the bindings option, gone to the HTTPS section, and all they've done is changed it from saying not selected to being the certificate. In my case, when I tried that, I got yet another error message and it wouldn't let me select the certificate. The way I fixed that was I went into MMC, went into Add Remove Snap-ins, Certificates, Computer Account, and then the local computer unless you're administering a remote one. Go plus next to Certificates, plus next to Personal, click on Certificates. All I did was right-clicked on the certificate that had been generated, exported it, exported the private key. Basically, I think I ticked all of those, the options to include certificates, delete the private key, and export extended properties. Exported it, deleted the certificate from the certificate store, right-clicked, imported it, and re-imported the certificate. Then in IIS, in the binding section, it would then let me select the certificate, and off I go. There doesn't seem to be much information on the internet about why that error might occur. So if you do get that error message, it might be worth posting to the ACMESharp issues section and see whether other people have advice. But I hope that's helped. It's about the 4th time I've used this command, so I hope all the commands are correct and they work for you. If you have any error messages or questions, try posting in the comments on this video, or go to the ACMESharp issues section and post there. There's definitely some very helpful people there. And good luck.